The enigmatic entity of entertainment, your main man, returns, Barbarian Horde. And before we get into our video for today, for those of you who don't know, you're about to know. Go get your copies of Within the Ring of Fire. Available now in physical copies, as you see in my hand, on Drive-Thru RPG. You're tired of all the problems your fantasy games have. You're tired of things that Dungeons & Dragons not making sense. You're tired of a lack of role-playing focus. You're tired of a lack of immersion. You're tired of players not understanding how to get the characters over, how to entertain you as a game master, how to understand narrative, cinematic combat, how to understand cooperation, collaboration. Get Within the Ring of Fire. This is Saga Book. Physical copies you can get on Drive-Thru RPG. You can get deals on bundles of PDFs at one low price. Get a PDF of everything to ever be put out for Within the Ring of Fire from your main man. Right here. Boom. Book number 2, 77 Thrones, the Theological Codex, with a book all about the pantheon, the divinities of Kavega Thale, of Within the Ring of Fire. The most intense and comprehensive book you're going to find on religions, on theology, in any RPG. I put it up against anything else that's been published, put out there. Bring that home to your collection. Even if you don't run the game, it's going to give you enormous inspiration for creating pantheons and divinities and deities of your own, as will the cosmology of the world of Kavega Thale. First novel for Within the Ring of Fire, Fey Wine. Pick that up as well. Immerse yourself in the sea of madness that is Within the Ring of Fire. Monsters and Men going to be out very, very soon. Hit your main man up on Facebook. Join Raw Immersive Games and come and talk with us and interact about RPGs in general, about Within the Ring of Fire, about other products from Raw Immersive Games that will be upcoming, and get all the latest news, feedback, special bits of information and previews and so forth, and ask your main man questions right there on Facebook. Send me a friend request, main man on Facebook. You can find the link right here directly on my channel. To you, Barbarian Horde, I'm about to slap the gruel out your mouth, because we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to be talking about a different style than I typically advocate for playing RPGs. We're going to step back slightly from the immersion. We're going to welcome in to that style of new players. And Dungeons and Dragons is often a very inaccessible game. Part of the reason I wrote Within the Ring of Fire is to make a game that's so more accessible for new players and teaching the role-playing. Not pulling back from the graphic content, not pulling back from the role-playing in any way, or making things too simple, simply to make a game that corrects and addresses and fixes all the problems that have always been around in the fantasy games and Dungeons and Dragons and so forth, and to bring it that role-playing to the highest precipice possible. But if we're looking at Dungeons and Dragons, which is, honestly, I find quite unfortunate to be the gateway RPG game, and I think it turns a lot of people off because it has a lot of elements that are not role-playing game in it. And one of the big problems it has is it's so mechanically complicated and convoluted. From edition to edition, there's vast changes. There's, particularly in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons period, the rules were really difficult to learn. 3.5, there's so freaking many of them, and it takes forever to make a character in a game like 3.5, in a game like Pathfinder. And 4th edition, the amount of problems we're not even going to start talking about there. There's loads of them I see in D&D Next as well. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do here. This is going to be a game where you play more than one character at the same time. This is a style I saw a lot when I first got into Dungeons & Dragons. You'd be 2 players and a Dungeon Master. The role-playing would always be a little on the light side in my teenage years, not necessarily for me, as I was always trying to make that game better and put it over and get more into it. Always the best player there in the teenage years, even when we're playing with adults. But the players in general, it might be a bit light there, and not a lot of that direction. So you wanted to have that party that had at least 6 players in it, or at least 6 characters, but you only have 2 players. You only have 1 Dungeon Master. Well, each of your players is playing 3 characters. And the characters are going to be different. The characters are going to be more unique, and it allowed you as a player the obvious opportunity to expand your horizons to a greater degree. It's like, well, why don't I make one of my characters female? Well, I don't really like halflings, but I guess I'll play one because I got 3 characters. Well, I would never really think to play a wizard, but sure, I'll play a fighter, wizard, thief as one of my characters. I'll play what have you, and it can really help to expand your horizons there at those early ages as you're trying more things. You're given more options, obviously, as you get 3 times the amount of options in that game. You can also play with 2, or I've never played more than 3 characters in a game. I have done that a few times, and I haven't done it in an enormous amount of time. An epoch of time has passed since your main man has slit the skin of 3 characters simultaneously for the puppetry. Now, what we're going to be doing in this style, and I'm going to be talking about adding the immersion to this same sort of style. because that's really what we want to knock out, is a lot of the clunkiness, a lot of the time taking. We want to have, this is a game where you could show up, right? It's a party style. You got your 4 friends. 2 days ago, they were like, man, we never played role-playing games before. We see these books on your shelves. We want to show up. We want to play. You go, okay, well, oh, I know. Let's have them make more than one character because they're probably going to make mistakes and die, and I don't want to have Bob die the first 7 minutes of this 6-hour game I have running for the people, and he's sitting there all night going, and you don't want Bob to talk to somebody? No, because you can't have Bob sitting there talking to Liz the whole game. You got to have them in character. You got to have them engaged. You got to have them entertained. Bob's not going to have a fun time if Bob is already dead and you're going to, stop and help make a new character? No. You get them all there. Boom, 3 characters. And we're going to have a very rigid way we're doing that. I'm going to use bits and pieces from different editions. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. I'm going to choose and pick what I like. But listen, you don't have to make the same selections I do. Pick and cobble together your Frankenstein monster of Dungeons & Dragons for the same purpose, just the way you want to do. But listen to mine, because I built these blocks in a specific reason to bring about this task. To keep that spotlight and focus still on role-playing while role-playing different styles. Well, you can certainly play this in a troop-style game as well. It doesn't need to be. It can still be boom, bang, beam, the party, the dungeon crawl, the adventure in the dark forest, the top of the peak of snow-capped dragonacities. It can be these sort of styles and sort of games. So there's reasons, and I'm going to talk about the reasons why I picked each part. I even have some freaking notes. And I never take notes. That's pretty much all baby, I just threw my notes on the floor. Who knows what's going on now? It's about to be a Donnybrook breaking loose in the bedroom. You understand, baby? So, first thing, right off the bat, we're picking a class. Before you do anything, you choose your class. Not a race, not any options, advantages, nothing. You pick your class. And then what do? After you pick your class, you roll your stats. That's right. We're not going to have any of this mealy-mouth, maggoty behavior of a lot of people where they want to take and go, oh, well, I rolled my stats and now I'm going to do this and that instead. No. You're locked in, buddy. And that produces more entertaining, more interesting characters. I talk about this all the time, where you want to bring characters that are different. A lot of people won't do that because they're afraid to do that. But when you put everyone on the same balance pedestal right off the bat and you watch them roll their stats, always watch people roll stats. There is no roll that's more likely and more often cheated than stat rolls. So when you're picking a class, I'm going with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st or 2nd edition to pick your classes. So we're using uneven experience points tables, which I always found to be very interesting. And in itself, an interesting balancer. Is a rogue and a paladin are really balanced? Fuck no, the paladin's going to beat the shit out of that rogue. But the rogue does have some interesting options and opportunities and availabilities as well. So you can make a case. I think it's a fairly weak one, but whatever. So we're going to be going Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st, 2nd edition, that style of characters. So we're going to use the style of hit dice, of hit points. You can use dual classing. You can use multi-classing. You can play it real strict or stringent to the rules, going, okay, well, actually, I'm sorry, but dwarf can only achieve the 9th level as a fighter. So now that you're 9th level, you're done leveling that character forever. You can use their dual classing options for just humans, or you can allow anyone to dual class. You can allow humans to multi-class. The same way it's done, you can throw it all out and say, look, you can have up to 3 classes. You can pick any 3 classes you want, as long as they're from different subgenres, like only one type of warrior. You can't pick a barbarian, ranger, fighter, which I don't really think you'd want to anyway, but none of that. I picked their style of classes because I think they're easier. It's a real quick bing, bang, boom. You don't have to sit there and try to play Tetris with the levels. I like that about 3.5 in some ways. I also don't like it about 3.5 in some ways. But it's not faster. It's not easier. And that's what we want. Fast, easy, fun. We're bing, bang, boom. We're getting it together with Dungeons & Dragons. So just sort of hear me out here. All right. And this game is going to ring very true to Dungeons & Dragons, because I think I've only added 1 or 2 things original, and I sort of customized them off of other Dungeons & Dragons aspects. So you could take that class, and you select it first. Then you're going to roll your stats. And right, so I'm going to make you old school Renaissance people happy. One time. Woo! My God, baby. One time and one time only. Your main man in all the many faces, all the many forms you see in the steel and concrete towers of the metropolis like Superman. I will make your day, old school Renaissance people. So hit the like button for once in your life. you're going to be rolling your stats straight down the line. That means if you roll something, and you got to write your stats down, none of that trickery, none of that writing them afterwards. Oh, well, actually, because I do it this way, so we're going to put intelligence up here and constitution. Nah, your main man knows your trickery mind. And we're not going to have any of that slipperiness from you. Write all six of them down, then you roll them right in order. Watch your players roll their stats. So you're going down the line. You've already picked your class. You've already picked a fighter. Maybe you picked a wizard. Now, I would probably be kind enough to bump their minimum up if they roll. Like if you're a fighter and you rolled under that 9, I'd probably give you that 9 strength. But we're gonna explain how this old school deal is going to become new and modern and relevant, and it's going to be more fun for your players. So we're going to roll, not only roll, but we're going to roll 3d6 down the line. 3d6 down the line. That is a jack to you. That's never changed. But we're going to put a little caveat in there. Now you can see from my video, 3d6 down the line. That's a jack to you. One of the funnier videos I put out, I do say so, infuriated an entire community of like up to 4 people. When we're doing this, you really can roll a really low stats. Trust me, it's documented in a live video. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll those 3d6, and you're going to take whatever you get right into those stats. But anything you get that's under 7, I feel under 7 is really not a playable stat, not for what you're doing. Look, there's a level where a person cannot be trusted to leave and attend themselves in their own way or their own reasons. And they certainly can't be allowed to have a sharp item, multiple sharp items, weapons. No, there's a certain level, and all the stats, when they get to a certain point, they're just not playable, man. I mean, you're a village idiot or, a cripple, you have a debilitating disease. It's like, look, my characters are, I have a mentally retarded character. I have a leper, and I have a curmudgeon that lives out in a cave. Those are my characters. That's what you could get, and that just it'd just be ridiculous, And then people go, "Oh, we don't have to play your stats. You have more if you're not going to play them." So we'll have none of that foolishness from you. So you're going to have those stats. Anything under a 7, you get to automatically reroll it. Thus, first of all, knocking your stats up to a slightly higher degree because you're getting to reroll something. You're not rolling ones, just 3d6 right down the line. And I'll tell you why that needs to be low in a minute, because there is a reason for that. There's a method to my madness. I'm no longer in any way recanting my ideas on rolls. I don't like rolling. I don't like any of that stuff. But I think for this style, I think it fits well. Again, you don't have to use that. This is the way I'm going to do it when I use this style. And I put these rules here together for a reason. And that's right. That's right. I've actually written notes for a video. That never happens. So after you've rolled your stats, you select your class and roll your stats. After you roll your stats, you get to pick a race. You get to pick the race afterwards. So if you're like, man, I really wanted to play that elf, but this character, I think we'll just do something else with him. And it can give you really interesting ideas right off the bat for a character, right? You're like, all right, so you make that fighter, and that fighter has a terrible strength. He has like a 9 or maybe a 10, let's say. And you get like a 16 intelligence or 16 wisdom, maybe a 16 intelligence and a 16 wisdom. But you got that low strength, and you're like, and you go, wait a minute, but if I had a low strength, who would make sense to have these other high stats but a low strength? A halfling. So you can make your halfling fighter with a 9 strength, which, is certainly appropriate. 17 strength is always ridiculous, or 16 strength even just ridiculous for a halfling, as small as they are. But I think that can make interesting. The stats can sort of prompt you and propel you off into different directions right off the bat. And that's, again, we want fast. We're not trying to sit there and make a character that's going to take hours to craft and create. This is fast. This is your party style. This is your quick into. This is making it easy and accessible, not convoluted and dense. So along those lines, then you're selecting a race. For me, I'm using 2nd edition AD&D races as a style. You can pick any other style. That's the one I want to use. I like the +1, -1s on stats. I think that works well, particularly for this style, because after all, your stats are going to be low. So giving them a +2 could really be a really big deal. Even this style, +1 could be a big deal. I don't want it to be a big deal, but I don't want it to be a +2. That really starts getting to be a big deal. We're going to talk about stats a little bit later. Base attack bonus. I'm going to use a base attack bonus style. Again, we're using the class bases out of AD, and that means you're in that paladin class. You're always a paladin. But the way I would do, you could be a paladin, wizard, rogue if you wanted to, or thief. It's a thief. And you're playing all those classes all the way up, or you could dual class them, whatever you want to do. So we're using those sort of options as opposed to the sort of Tetris build style of 3.5 with all the feats and the built-in prestige classes and all these sort of things. That's convoluted. That gets confusing. Not saying I don't like that or wouldn't play that, because I would, and I do, somewhat. Not my favorite thing, but somewhat. So, but that's a confusing part. You can say, "Oh, look, you're a ranger. This is what rangers have. This is what they do. This is how your hit dice are. Whatever." So that's going to work best for your new players, for that quick game, for that kind of game where maybe they're not new players. It's not designed to be for that type, but you want to have 3 characters. You want to have characters dying. You don't want to have them sit there perhaps and spend 17 hours, because you might kill one of the characters first scene. Bam! Oh, that can wake up that player who's been playing, the really high role-playing style of games, the Within the Ring of Fire, the Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu, and that's all they're playing. And that, they're not used to having that character necessarily die right there. First scene, kill one of them. Just kill one of the characters. Not necessarily everyone, just one of them. Just boom! First scene, they go, oh! It produces a different sort of dynamic in the game, a different tone and mood. And different tones and mood are wonderful. They help stimulate RPG. It's not the same thing. You want to change those gears, wind those gears differently. Go here, go there, go everywhere. Because you can be over here, then you can be over here, now you can be over here, now you can be over here, and that can really help to get the pulse pounding of your players in that particular RPG, and in that particular RPG group. So they go, man, and then in all your groups further, they'll be like, man, that motherfucker will kill our characters. We gotta be careful. So that can be a good thing to have that in the back of players' minds, that you would kill their characters, that their characters aren't immortal. When players have that idea their characters are immortal, it can really create a lot of problems in the game. They might not take it as seriously. They might not have as much fun, because that element of lethality is not there. So, enough of the waxing philosophical and topics of RPG for the moment, but we shall return. I would do saves, base attack bonus and saves. I do both as 3.5. That means, for example, so it gets everything is going high. We want to keep everything high. No THAC0, none of these billion saving throws. No rolls to roll low here, high here. That confused the fuck out of people. Yes, I understood how to do all of it. I can do all of it right now. I can play a game right now and do all of it without looking at a book. I even see veteran players constantly when you drop back to AD&D. Even when AD&D was the deal, back in the early 90s, mid-90s, 80s, people were messing that stuff up all the time. And that's a constant labor for game masters. Oh, no, it's like this, it's like this. And don't go out on a rant, so I don't want to play with people that are too stupid to know that. Mathematical applications have absolutely nothing to do with the type of people you want to have in your role-playing game anyway. You want people who are creative, who are narrative, who are collaborative, who are fun, who are exciting, who push the pace, and are willing to come out of their shell, not sitting there going, a character, and I have this, and no, you won't want them. This needs to be easy. So again, Dungeons & Dragons is your gateway game for hobbies. These rules, creating this little rule set, nice, quick, and easy. You can get it over. You can put it over. So, again, remember the multi-classing. So we're multi-classing. If you multi-class as a fighter, as a cleric, as a rogue, you're going to be using the base attack bonus that's the highest, which is probably just going to be your fighters right all the way. So just like you would have done in THAC0. But it's easy. Your saves are only 2. They're not 3 like base attack bonus. There's only 2. It's either strong or weak. So you look, does one of your classes have a strong? Yes. Well, that's probably the one you're going to use. It's probably always going to go to your 1. So if you're a fighter, thief, wizard, you're going to have strong in all of your saving throws. So they each progress as that class does. Do not stack them up. This is one of the big flaws for saving throws in 3.5, which really killed it when you start stacking classes up. It's like, oh, I'm a monk and I'm this and that. And their saving throw gets to the point where it's like, I need to roll a 2 to beat that 30 save you have. I did. I rolled a 2. Who would have thought? So you want characters not to have that. You want characters going to be scared, to be fragile. So you wouldn't stack each one of those saves on top of each other. You just take the highest of each save from whatever the class can produce. I hope that's nice and easy enough to understand, and I'll just spend 20 minutes talking about it. So stats, again, I'm going to do like 3.5. If you have a 12, it's not plus nothing, it's a +1. A 14's a +2. A 16's a +3. A 9's a -1. And that's across the board. It's nice, it's easy to understand. It's the same thing across the board. It's not, well, actually, a 17 dex gives me a +2 and a -3. And no, that's too much. It's too complicated. It's too confusing. And also, this AD&D rules fall back on high, low, high, low. We just want to go high. We want to make it easy. We want to make it accessible. So use those. It's also more rewarding. You don't feel like you have to have an 18. Because after all, the stats are rolling. You're probably not going to have an 18. You might, but it might not be right where you had wanted it. And guess what? You will find you like playing like this. You will, because your characters will be different. You know what characters are fun? Ones that are different. And you got a whole bunch of them. So you can, you're going to have some stuff that's fun there. And hell, you're going to have some of them that probably die. And a game master, dungeon master, you might look at them and go, oh man, this guy's doing a miserable job with that character. They're not using the character at all. I didn't really like the character anyway, whatever. Boom, target that character, knock it out. Have the trap go off, slice his head off, have him killed in combat, what have you. Knock it right out. And you can also see and learn which players you enjoy playing 3 characters or 2 characters and which ones you don't. And you can trim their ranks down. You can also allow people to add more characters at later times. It makes sense. That NPC joins a group. Here you go. And guess what? Now you get to play a character that's a level higher and is also a vampire. That's how you got him. Boom. There you go. So it's sort of like a video game style where you're able to add those NPCs to the party. Somebody's playing them. Somebody's bringing that as their character. And you even have them roll them up. Okay? We've gone to the village where ogres live. Well, maybe an ogre joins the group. One of the players gets to play an ogre. We can also bring the henchmen, that your man, Samwise, that's right, Tim, I'm Harper, I'm talking about you out there, halfling style, with his sling and hoopok and such things. He's going to love to talk about those henchmen in his videos. So we bring the henchmen in right there, and when you get higher levels, to help utilize that charisma. And use the henchman stat from AD&D for your charisma, along with what charisma is in D&D 3.5. A non-D&D rule, I would make all characters have one flaw. It helps right off the bat. We have one flaw. That helps give a tremendous amount of personality to a character. My character is deathly afraid of the dark. My character is extremely paranoid. My character is a schizophrenic. My character has an eating disorder. My character, and these are not all written down, but you could be afraid of fire or whatever it is that you like. It's one flaw. Whatever it is, from here to here, role play it, and give the people experience based off of role playing, and reward them, incentivize them to play that flaw out, and you can get a lot of mileage out of that. And there, there's your role playing right there, in a beginning form for that beginning player. Like, well, I have a flaw, I need to play it. Okay, and I have some strong things here, I need to play those too. You're beginning to cobble together a psychological profile. You're beginning to cobble together a personality, and you're gonna, that's gonna work. So. Some of the classes, I would make some slight modifications. I would let anyone use dexterity, basically weapon finesse. Here, everyone has it. No, we don't have any feats, but everyone can have weapon finesse. You want to use your dexterity to hit with smaller melee weapons with a dagger, with a short sword? Knock yourself out. Boom, you all got it. Or you could drop it back and say, oh, no, just thieves get it. Whatever you want to do. Smite. I'm going to use smite rules on paladins. I love smite. I'm not using all the extra saves and that because that can get a little convoluted and complicated. But I'm giving them smite. I like smite on the paladin, and it's not going to particularly unbalance them. And also, remember, I just told you a paladin doesn't have to have a 17 charisma now. So in AD&D, why would he? Charisma didn't do much. No reason not to incentivize charisma, and no reason not to incentivize that paladin to want to have a higher charisma. Boom, give him smite once a day at first level, and then, however you want. You could give them... every other level. Every odd level, you get one more. So you could do 10 of them at 19th level, for example. Another rule I like stat-wise is spells learned and the number of spells learned by wizards. And I would take that and I would also add it to clerics. So we're going to make some modifications in classes here. These shouldn't be a big surprise coming from me. No Fancy and Magic. Fancy and Magic is horrible. The explanations for it are terrible. Explaining it to a new player makes them go, what? And it's disengaging of the immersive quality that we want to bring across, that spark that we're going to do at the same time, getting them into multiple minds, multiple headsets. That should get a new player. Like, oh, I really like playing that rogue. So then we're, now he might go along those lines. I really like playing that wizard. I really like playing that cleric. I'm glad I tried to play that cleric because I wasn't going to. But I said at the last moment, well, why don't I take a cleric? So... you have a rule where there's a certain number of spells you can learn per level dictated by your intelligence. And there's a percentage to learn spells where you could fail. And it's like, well, I tried to learn it, but I just couldn't. So I had to come back and try to learn it later. Or if you're really bad, you say, well, you can never learn that spell. And it puts you in a position where you're not walking around with 40 spells per level, which is in itself kind of ridiculous. You're dealing with nuanced occult knowledge and science that predicates the tapestry of the universe. So there's probably only so much of that you could really understand or comprehend anyway. Plus, that makes scrolls way more valuable, wands way more valuable. It's like, well, I don't know fireball, but I do got a wand of it. Oh, God, my face. Why? So that can be a very interesting thing, in a very interesting way where the multiple wizards in the party can kind of do things for each other. Like, oh, I'm going to make this wand of fireballs. I'll give it to you, but whatever. I would use the same rules for clerics, except I would change it around to be wisdom. There's no reason a cleric. This is dauntingly overwhelming to a new player. Here you go. You know how to use every spell in that first level. Oh, that's bad. I'm using spells from 3.5. You get all your first level spells. You get all your 0th level spells, all your cantrips for both wizards, for both clerics. Wizards are going to be limited to the amount they can cast, as are clerics. You're casting everything spontaneously. So there's an advantage for you. You are going to be learning. So it gives you a great thing. It's like you have that scroll. You're like, you're greedy, and you're greedy for that scroll. No free spells and new levels. That's a ridiculous rule. But you're going to be greedy for that spell. And you're going to learn it, and you're going to want to learn it. And it's going to be a whole role-playing experience right there. Don't deprive players of role-playing experience to make things more balanced. No, screw that. Give them a cool role-playing experience. You can work scrolls in. You can work new avenues being taught, and you can work in ancient runes etched on a stone tomb. These things can be brought into a game, and do bring them in. It's more for you to do as a game master. You're adding more. And you can make it and put it in different ways, but players aren't even really realizing. It's like there's an ancient embalmed body there, and there's spells written in red ink all over the bandages. You can barely make them out, but you can make them out. Oh, look, there's a spell in there. A spell of warding. You're like, whoa, it's a spell of warding. And you're like, well, can I learn that spell? You're like, well, absolutely. And they're sitting there for hours studying this rotting remains, this rank carcass. That's a wonderful scene right there. They'll remember that. It'll have impact upon the mind. And you can talk about the smell of the herbs and the musty tomb and the stale air and the rotting body and the dirty ancient withered bandages. That's a cool scene you can bring in. And then maybe have put the goozle on just now. Why did that mummy camp come and animate 4 hours into my learning of spells? Or you can not have that, or you could tease that, and that because players are always paranoid that everything's a monster. So you could tease it. The flick of the light or move of a shadow, or maybe it's just a sound they hear. Like, oh, it's just a rat, but they don't know that. Because they're not looking at the body, right? They're right on top of it, and they're staring really intently right here at the bandages. Maybe they see something move. Maybe the arm moves because a rat has crawled up and gotten into the tomb and is trying to eat it. And the arm starts moving. They go, oh! Right there, boom, you got a scene. And that could even be a great reason to why they didn't learn a spell. All right, so I think you guys understand me on that. Watch my video on Wizards, watch my video on Clerics, and you can see some more about that. And I start them with 4. You get all your 0s, plus you get 4 spells that you know. You 4 first level spells that you know. You can pick them for a cleric or for a wizard. Now we talked about the low stats before. Now we're not using any of that at 4th level. You get a +1. None of that nonsense. The way I'm going to do it is dungeon masters at their leisure, for what makes sense to them, for seeing how the character is adding to the narrative, for how the character is role-playing, describing things, how they're training, what they're invested in, what they're doing, what epic feats they just accomplished. Give them a little role. Use it like AD&D 1st Edition Unearth Arcana Cavalier, except for all your stats. So you're going to have a 10 strength slash, and as soon as you get it to a double aught, that 10 strength rolls over to an 11, which you're slowly seeing all these stats going up. You could just incentivize it and go, okay, you get a roll at every level. Or you could give them a roll at every level. Plus, you could give them whenever you feel like it, whenever it makes sense to you, whenever it's pleasing to you as a game master. And when you do that, you incentivize people to energize you, to role play better, to do more things, to embrace the scenes, to spark your imagination, to roll for that as extra, those stat points. They're going to crave them. And when you dangle the carrot, boy, you get your players to run faster. You just plain and simple do. So listen to me, because I get them running at a rapid pace. You understand? And I want you to be able to do it too, to have fun, to have energy, to have them entertaining you as a game master. Players, entertain your game masters. That is your job. And then you hit that energy cycle, you run, you get the game going. It works beautifully. So that's going to be something that you're going to want to bring in, and you can incentivize them. They're in the library, they're studying. All right, look, I'm going to have you roll to get some more intelligence. But again, they're going to have to get 100 to get up there. Maybe you give them just a D3. Maybe you give them a D8. Maybe you give them 2D8, 3D8, a D12, a D7. Who knows? It all depends on what you want to do. Let them have them roll it and go, okay, cool, I got 3 more points. And they'll be excited for those 3 points. They'll be happy that they got it, that they're seeing some degree of progress, and then we're seeing progress slowly. You're slowly learning things. So that's something that I think works really well. We're also not going to use skills. We're just going to have a concept. We're going to have a schema. We're going to have a secondary skill. Secondary skills from Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. As an optional rule in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. Perfectly easy. This is the framework for what your character knows. He doesn't need to have everything etched out. It's like, look, man, I'm a street tough. You're like, all right, yeah, that's your concept. Your secondary skill is street tough. And add a ton. Just say, look, man, these are sample ideas. There's no street tough in there. There's no reason that couldn't be a secondary skill. You know how to survive on the street. You know how to con a man. You know how to, maybe you got a little pickpocket or something going on. Add a little something to them. And that can be that, and the whole sort of general, just the character background. They have a flaw. Every character is going to have a flaw. Every character is going to have a secondary skill. You got your stats. You got your little bit of a background. You got enough stuff to work with. You don't have to have them embracing skills. I use skills, I like skills, have skills and within the Ring of Fire. Definitely a fan of skills. But for that new player coming in, it's overwhelming. Often there can be too much. And Dungeons & Dragons is a game that has way too much. So we want to bring them down and bring it back to the basics. Give them that secondary skill. They can be a forester, they can be that street tough, they could be a sailor, or they could be a slave, they could have been a shipwright, a wheelwright, a tanner, whatever they want to come up with. They get that one skill, that one shot at glory, that one time for victory, and they can bring a tremendous amount of background to, whether they're a sage or a grave digger or a mason. These things help to tell a story, and they look at that flaw, right? That paranoia, that one flaw they have, any paranoid or schizophrenic, or they could be alcoholic, or they could be terrifyingly afraid of the dark or a fire, or what have you. And you add that in, you add the secondary skill in, you add in the stats. You got enough to work with, run a character very well, very easy, right there. Particularly when you add in the class as well. Well, you're a paladin, so yeah, you do know something about religion. That's obvious. New players often make stats, when they take stats, skills, they screw up. They're like, well, I didn't know my paladin needed to take religion. Well, yeah, you did, dude. You definitely did. And I missed that, so I don't know, man. I could either give you just another skill here, which is unfair to everyone else, if we're to be honest, or I guess you're just a stupid-ass paladin that doesn't know anything. You know your god's name, but shit, I mean, once we get outside, they're like, I don't know, this is a problem. And yeah, you could probably come up with some ideas of this or that, but typically it's just out of ignorance. So we're not having that problem. We're going, well, yeah, you're a wizard. Of course you know spellcraft. You're a wizard. Of course you do. But you might be, this kind of sage, this fighter who's a sage. And you're like, well, yeah, but I was a sage. Remember I did this deal. I was actually an apprentice wizard. And I just couldn't pick it up. I just couldn't get it. It was too much for me. And you go, yeah, well, you have spellcraft, so you know a little something. You're like, you don't think I do, doesn't you? You're like, no, he doesn't. You're like, all right, I got something for that ass. So, you have that going on. We don't have any feats. We don't have any advantages, nothing like that. You can give players a bit here and there when it makes sense in a story. Don't just let them say, oh, I'm going to specialize. No, you're going to earn that specialization. You're going to earn that specialization in whatever it is. And we're going to role play through that. We're going to work through it. And when it gets there, here you go. Okay, you get a +1 to hit and a +1 to damage. A +2 to hit and a +2 to damage. A +1 to hit and a +2 to damage. +2 to hit and +1 to damage. Whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, make it. You don't have to use whatever rules they have there. Whatever pleases you. And give them something different. That can make them go, this is a bit of a new experience. Knock the dust off. Man, kick that son of a bitch. And watch the dust fall. And watch the players entertain, when you make that. Because you want to keep it fast, you want to keep it easy. After all, remember, you're having to address 3 characters for each of these guys. And additional characters are going to come in the game. Have it that classic brutal D&D style, man. Knock someone's head off. Have a dragon eat somebody. You're like, well, yeah, we went to a dragon. And it ate 4 of us. We don't like to mess with dragons. They eat us. So they need to be scared. They're like, oh, our ranks have been reduced. Bob has 1 character now. Oh, sorry about that, Bob. So the times Bob might lose all his characters. You can do that too. It's not that you magically get one to survive, but you're gonna bring that chance down. If somebody goes in with 3 characters, they're probably not gonna lose all of them. So not that you have to replenish them either. Simply the fact that it's going to give you a way to get involved in the game in a different way. And that's what, we like talking about different ways, different opportunities and options. You still want to keep them role playing each one of those characters. Don't have them just sitting there and going, oh, well, this and no, get them involved, get them invested, get them engaged, get little plots and going. And they, you can play one here, one over here, while the next player's in with the game master. Pick one of your characters or two of them. I could have two of my characters talk with one of her characters, and all three characters could talk together. I'm a game master. I can play 25 characters at the same time. I sure as hell can play 3, and I think any of you out there can play 3 as well. And I don't think that's going to be very difficult. And I think that your new players can too. It might actually even help them to roleplay because it's going to put less stress on one character, and then go, okay, well, I have to differentiate. So how do I do that? And the player might think to themselves, well, let me do voices. Let me talk in a little squeaky voice for my halfling. Let me talk in a big body voice for my half-orc. Let me use my normal voice for my human. So that's something you can help there as well. You're also going to get them to describe because they're going to realize, okay, I can't just say human that looks like me and has my name. Okay, you have a human that looks like you and has your name, right? All right. What about your half-orc? Does he look like you and have your name too? Well, no, I guess. Okay, and then they can start getting it. A lot of things you can tell people, but when they see it and they get it, then that's when when that light comes on, they're really going to become receptive to that knowledge, and they're gonna learn just like anything else. Now, for me, crits are only on 20, and when I roll 20s, I like to use critical hit charts provided by Critical Hit Games. Go to Drive Through RPG now. Get your critical hit chart. Support my man Alex. Pick that up right now, and you can use that for your D&D games, whether they are AD&D, basic D&D, D&D 3.5, D&D Next, or the sort of D&D Frankenstein's Child that we're talking about right now. Get that critical hit chart from him. Get that book. Get it on PDF. Get it on physical copy. Get it from Drive Through RPG. Get it now. And you can certainly use that. Just roll the 20, boom, go right to the chart, roll your percentiles, and then you got them dealt with. So that's what I use. For weapon damage, I probably use the damage out of 3.5, but you can certainly use it out of AD&D as well, if you wanted to go that way. I wouldn't suggest using large and small damage. It gets confusing. Wouldn't suggest speed factor. It gets confusing. Personally, I'm weird. I like speed factor, but don't bring any of these things in to a game like this. You want to keep it fast, because after all, you're going to have a lot of initiative going there. Have one of your players keep initiative. Do not do that as a game master. Have one of the players keep it. There's going to be a ton of characters, and that's really going to help speed things up. At least have them keep it for the players, and you can just call numbers off and go, oh, okay, yeah. And then you can get all that worked in there. One less thing to do in a game like this for Dungeon Masters is a good thing. But again, also this can incentivize the players to pick up the NPCs. Maybe one of them has a pseudo-dragon familiar, and player A has it, but it's player B. The pseudo-dragon is player B's character. If you have a character that has that close of a tie, I say give it to the other player. I don't want to sit there and play my familiar and me. You play my familiar. We can have scenes. Boom. Instead of taking the game master's time up, I got a whole vested character. He's like, cool, I got to play a pseudo-dragon? I get this neat power and that neat power, and I can fly? I got a good arm. Okay, this is wonderful. A lot of players would like to have that as an additional character. And they're going to be able to give it more time than the game master probably would have anyway. So that can be a great way to take stress off, to take detail off of a game master. So we can use the henchmen rules from AD&D. You can even use those sort of rules from 3.5. Whatever you find works there. I would say no attacks of opportunity, no flanking. I'm going classic for rogues. I'm going backstab. Don't worry about the rest of it. That the sneak attack did not work out well. It was a failure in 3.5 because it incentivized a different style of fighting. Look, a thief is Ric Flair. Woo! My God, the dirtiest player in the game. Backing up, low blow, pulling you in, grabbing the tights, raking the eyes, throwing salt, getting the referee to look that way, kicking you the old trick knee, bringing your eyes across the rope, chopping you. That's a backstab. Sneak attack is like some weird, I'm a general with tactics, and no, you're a rogue. The fighter will beat you senseless in hand-to-hand, face-to-face combat. You pick and move, sneak, you throw dirt in the ground, you cheat, you kick him in the balls, you pull his hair, you punch him in the throat, you gouge his eye out. That's a backstab. But when you're running around and flanking, that's tactical. Thieves aren't tactical. There's a reason you didn't have a bunch of rogues running around on an ancient Greek battlefield. Those are fighters. And fighters do this sort of thing, so it made no sense for thieves anyway. The backstab, promoted role-playing. You're like, okay, I'm going to spend 3 rounds sneaking around because, goddamn, I got this ×5 backstab, and I'm driving my dagger through the base of his neck. I'm going to sneak. I'm going to use a hide in the shadows now. I'm going to use it silently. I'm going to sneak up, do this, bing, bang, boom. And it promoted a great role-playing scene for the rogue to have in the middle of combat, which you always want to do. Don't not allow that. People go, oh, to balance them, we made them not rogues and thieves anymore. They're bizarre acrobat assassin master warriors. And believe you me, you make a rogue right, he will trump a fighter every day in 3.5, which makes no sense. Even the master cool assassin guy will get slaughtered by an equally skilled fighter every time. Thunk off of the head, you know, in that face-to-face confrontation. But in the rule set there, they don't. So that's a problem. That is a huge problem. The rules are not creating reality as it should be created. They're creating this weird, it's a glitch. It's an RPG glitch. And those are definitely not to be welcome or to be accepted. So just a quick review for you as we're getting about the 40-minute and some mark. Make the class first. Then you're rolling your 3d6 reroll anything under a 7. Select your race. Then you're going with your base attack bonus, your saves 3.5 style. Weapons as 3.5. You can use whatever weapons your 3.5 type class could use. Again, there's a little bit of adjustment as you're making AD&D style first and second edition classes. Multi-classing, dual-classing, all of it. You have the level restrictions or not. And your hit dice as Advanced Dungeons & Dragons characters. So you're not having those huge hit dice all the way up the top. Your stats are like 3.5, 12 plus 1, what have you, instead of having like, you know, weird, like getting up to 17 and shit just automatically explodes. Secondary skills as first edition. One flaw on the character. Remember, we're rolling those extra percentiles and adding. They can be whatever you want. It could be 1. It could be a D4. It could be 3D8. Whatever makes sense to that scene. Change it up. Keep it different. And that really keep the character stimulated. And throw it out to them, you know, when it's appropriate to you. And if they're like asking them, you can deny them. Nah, son. It works well every single time. Give your paladin a smite. Let anybody have a dexterity bonus to hit with a smaller melee weapon. Or a bigger one if you want. No matter to me. We're using the learn spell percentage, the number of spells as wizards, but we're also doing that for clerics. Change it and make it even to wisdom. That should be an easy one for you guys to figure out. And we're going to always AC is higher. We want the AC high, not low. We want everything high, everything that makes sense that way. It's nice, it's quick, it's easy. Everyone's spontaneously casting, no non-spontaneous cast. There's no feats. You can give them some special talents when it makes sense to the game. And you're building from this commoner up to this hero. You're building a legend and a legacy. A character you can sink your teeth in and invest in. The longer he's around, the more he's getting. And as characters come in, I'd start the new characters off first level. If someone's bringing another character in and they're building. So you can have all kinds of weird differences there. And you got multiple characters, so it really ought not to matter. You should be able to stay in the action. You'd be able to stay interesting and be entertained. And this would be great for your new players. So that's the rules I put down. I'd like to see what you guys think of the rules as I put in the rules as written and carved in stone by the mouth and the mind of your main man. Let me know what you think out there, Barbarian Horde. Put the rule down, hit the keyboard, and let's hear what you had to think and what you had to say. So that has been your main man, baby.